topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Diversity Talk. It's Wednesday and I'm Wendy. I know that's hokey. I say it every week, but you know what? I like it. And it's windy outside. There you go. Thank you for joining us here on Diversity Talk tonight. Many of you I know were involved with the protest in Milford, Pennsylvania, as well as all over the United States. Last weekend, I was in New York City for the Imperial Court of New York. We had our big event, Night of 1,000 Gowns. And for many of you, you already know we raise money for other LGBTQ organizations. We are a totally philanthropic, non-for-profit, and we had members from our chapters, which are all over the United States. People flew in for this. We had incredible speakers. And it was just very inspiring that there were all these protests going on at the same time, that people are out there and getting behind their communities and realizing that a lot of these directives that are now happening, of course, are horrific and need to be dealt with. So I will just leave it at that. Night of 1,000 Gowns, by the way, is a yearly event, and I highly encourage people to attend it. We have opening Broadway numbers. A lot of us perform to raise money. And that's really what it's about at the end of the day, having a passion for what you do and just putting it out there. Well, speaking of passionate, I was very excited to have my guest that you're going to meet in a minute or so come on Diversity Talk tonight. They had been on my other show, If These Walls Could Talk. And then I had the privilege of going to see their wonderful show called Bitchcraft. And, oh, come on, the name alone makes you want to go, right? And it was just so filled with relevance and energy. And even if there was pessimism, there was optimism, which is totally what I'm all about. And the performer was not only amazing, so were the people, the director, the graphics that they have for the show, the music, all of it was just so perfect. So I am very, very excited to have here tonight the queer music icon, a feminist force that the world needs now. Please put your hands together for Bitch. There you are.
Hi, thank you so much for that great introduction.
Well, it's not hard because you know what? You're great. Your force comes right through this screen. So, and I wish you were here in person, but this is. You know what? We take what we can get with this streaming, and it's wonderful. You know, all that matters is that you're here. You just got back from touring, didn't you?
I did. Yes, I did that show that you were talking about in New York, and I finished that whirlwind run, and then I went right to the West Coast, and I did the whole West Coast with my friend Skip the Needle.
Wow.
Yeah. So I am fully now not touring, right?
Are you fried? Are you a little fried? You can tell me if you're fried. It's fine.
You know, it's funny. I don't feel fried. Doing that play 5 nights a week was such a challenge and so great. It was just such a different part of my performing brain that I haven't gotten to exercise much.
5 nights a week, I have to tell you, is really a lot. You know, I'm kind of like a Thursday through Sunday girl myself. 5 nights a week is just like, you don't have pets, I guess. No, you wouldn't be able to with that kind of schedule.
No, I know. Thank God.
Or plants. No pets or plants.
No plants, no pets. Yeah.
Just a broomstick. So
just a broomstick. Oh,
and this is Nugget, who always like he gets what this screen is. I don't think he knows what streaming is, though. He's at that.
Oh, Nugget.
I love it. This is New York, and of course, the ambulances are going by outside. The minute I stream, they are there. So I'm assuming that your show is extremely well received.
Yes, thank you very much. It was very well received. It's it's just been a dream. Now I get to panic about now what's next.
So I love your honesty, and that is truer words have never been spoken, because in this industry, and it's true for me, the panic sets in. Actually, I never even make it to the last day of the run. The panic sets in usually like a week or two before, when I have nothing coming down the pipe. Nothing, zero. Joan Rivers said it the best. I don't know if you read her autobiography, but she did a monologue on it, opening up her appointment book, and that she thought she was losing her vision. She was so blinded because the pages were so white.
Nothing.
She flipped through page after page, and they were so white because there was nothing on there.
I love her work ethic.
Right.
I very much relate.
It's the hardest thing when you get back.
Yes. And in fact, when I booked the West Coast tour, the whole time I was doing the run, I was like, I cannot believe I'm about to go on a West Coast tour playing a rock show. Like, not doing the play that you just saw and that I was all in the body of, and then part of me was like, you know what? That was divine intervention. Because in a way, you don't have time to have that depression come down. Right.
No, you're right. You had to like just jump into it, and you were probably high from, the show at the Wild Project. That was the night I was there. The audience absolutely loved it. And if I had had the time, I would have gone to see it again. I liked it that much. I've turned into, like, if I really love something, now I want to go back again to see everything I missed the first time.
Yes.
And you find out that you do miss things, right?
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. Things just get past you.
Yeah.
So when you, the show Bitchcraft, how did that come about?
Thanks for asking. When I finished my album Bitchcraft, I was starting to think about how to tour it. And, I very much wanted to not do a regular rock tour. Like I've been on this cycle, for 20 years where I release an album, I tour it, I tell stories in between the songs, that kind of thing. But I knew that I wanted to somehow hook into a more personal kind of autobiographical story. And, and I knew I just didn't want to tour the same way I was used to touring.
And that's how, so you decided to write a play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Musical. Wow.
Exactly. So my partner Faith is very hooked in. They live here in Boston, and they're also a theater maker.
Loved Faith. Had great conversations.
Oh, good. Yes, they said the same thing about you.
Yeah.
Good.
So you collaborated with Faith.
Well, Faith actually set me up with Margie, the director.
Who was amazing. I spoke to Margie too.
And
I wasn't just drinking wine. I was talking to all your people because I thought the product that you all produced that night was really great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, Margie, I consider Margie like my co-creator, co-writer.
Yep.
She directed this. And I just wanted a way into my story. And that's, she basically like drew that out of me. And that's like one of her gifts, is like helping artists like, write their own memoirs in whatever format that is. So we embarked on it. I got a few shows opening for the Indigo Girls. And I said to her, let's start here. I've got a 30-minute set. Let's just like incorporate a few autobiographical things. And we tried it out, and it just like grew from there.
Now I didn't realize that. So you actually test marketed it when you open for the Indigo. No, that is like really smart to do. Let's see how it's going to fly.
Yeah, and it's like at that point it was just, me with a couple props and with some stories. I didn't have the video and all of that kind of stuff. And, just to experiment with an audience who doesn't already know me for the most part. I think anytime, the thing that was so great about what Margie helped me do was tapping into like my vulnerability, because my name being bitch, it instantly a little bit puts up a wall with audiences.
Well, I told you before I had you on the other show and my co-host couldn't make it. I'm like, God damn. Okay, this guest is named bitch. I have no idea what this is going to like. They could be like really hard around the edges. I can handle anything.
Right.
But you walked in the door that day and your smile and your voice and everything. I'm like, oh, I really love this bitch.
Oh. Yeah, and like you just like having like a couple stories about like me as a kid and like being a quiet, one of the first things we ever wrote about was how I was a very like quiet kid, so yeah, I go out onto that stage with this Indigo Girls audience, my name's bitch, and I start talking about being a very quiet child, and it just like you could hear a pin drop. And that's when I knew like, okay, this is working. Yeah.
Because I think, and Margie, if she helped with the writing, knows this, you gave them what was totally not expected. And even for me going to your show, the way you grew up and your parents were both British expats.
Yeah.
Wow. And there you were in this like family. And I thought a lot about your show after I saw it, and I thought maybe you were so quiet because the not fitting was really very prominent for you.
I think so. Yeah. And like, like I think I absorbed like this kind of greater story of them feeling like they didn't fit in,
Absolutely.
And then me, I'm just like this very big kid, who's not, and my mom's a dancer. So, there's this whole thing about girls.
Said you were clumsy, right? You were, the only thing you were good at was tap dancing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because when you see like old movies, they will often have the character that's like a little off. They'll be the tap dancer.
Totally. Or like in symphony or like orchestra, they would generally, that's the viola player too.
Oh, I never knew. Oh, really? Wow.
Well, it's like if you're not, I feel like they're always like thought of as like the second fiddle in some way.
Oh my God, that's right. Like because they're not the violin, and who invented the viola when we already had the violin? What were they thinking? By the way, I love the richness of the viola. It's a rich sound that's different than the violin.
A beautiful instrument, yeah.
Oh, right, and which you would totally appreciate playing electrical violin and regular violin. So you were this quiet kid that grew up in the Detroit suburbs. You tap dance and you played violin.
Yeah. The part I left out of the story in the play, we decided to make the whole play based in Michigan because then I bring back the Michigan theme, but I actually grew up outside of Pittsburgh until I was 11.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, and then we moved to Detroit. So when you talk about rural Pennsylvania, I'm like, I understand. Because even I was in the suburbs in Pittsburgh. I was in Monroeville. But even now, when I visit, I always feel like, wow, I feel like I'm going back in time,
What county is that?
God. Allegheny?
Yeah, it's probably, I think it is Allegheny.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania's got its counties, and you're right, it's a huge state.
Yeah.
And it's very rural. People don't realize that,
Yeah.
So there you were.
There I was.
And
a quiet or shut down child.
Right. I have discussions about this with my daughter too, who blossomed, but I never shut her down. She was just shut down because of her school environment. And, when you're, when you have a kind of sensitivity and you're different, right? We're in a society where I always say it, we're in a Barbie. They want everybody to be Barbie or a cheerleader, especially if you identify female, right? There's this standard of who the popular kids are. And I always think it's worse in more rural places, where you're more expected to, rise to that Barbie realness, as I call it.
Yes.
And if you don't, then you go immediately into not fit. And
right.
That can take its toll on, but obviously they say cream rises to the top, and that's exactly what happened to you.
Where did you raise your daughter?
Here in the city, but her first year in public school was disaster. She was in a very advanced public school, PS6, where most of the parents worked on Wall Street or were lawyers, and the kids were always the first to have their hands up. My daughter was the one that would sit on the bench with someone when they had a timeout. Okay, the kindergarten teacher. I know that. Look at you. And I thought, that's the kindergarten teacher wanted to know, why did she do that? And I remember asked me, is she into the occult? Can you imagine asking, like, I know you can deal with what I'm saying. I'm like, why would you ask a parent that? Well, because she drew in black. Her dad was an artist who only wore black. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Oh my gosh.
But when you don't fit into those boxes that they want you to, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, they start pulling out labels and othering you.
They love to have those labels. So your saving grace was college. Am I correct?
Ooh. I feel like it was college, but it was also the violin.
Let's talk about your expertise at the violin. What was it about the violin?
I started when I was 3, I started like begging my parents for one.
You like those prodigies.
I just I had some thing where I was like obsessed with it. I saw it on Sesame Street. My mom always says that it was this guy who came to one of their parties that was playing the violin, and I guess I was just like attached to him all night, like wouldn't leave him alone. But yeah, the violin in a way like differentiated me from my family, which I found really, it was like my private world, or like it was this thing that I could do that was my own.
Yeah.
My own expression.
I'm curious why you focused on the violin at 3. Neither one of your parents were musicians. They were artsy, but your mom was, I know.
Yeah.
But not musicians. And it's interesting that there was something about when you heard that violin that the sound spoke to you. It was the sound, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a synesthesia experience,
I do love that word.
Me too. Right. Me too.
Wow.
So yeah, I feel like that was a real way that I like felt my own identity in some way, like aside from my family, and then of course, yes, when I went to college, it was just like boom, like going to a women's studies class. I went to acting school, so it was very
free.
Very freeing. And, we spent the whole first year only on improv, nothing scripted, which was just, because I was like on this like classical music track, my whole, growing up, and I was always like in a symphony and, doing all of that kind of stuff. And people really just thought I was going to go to music school and be like this classical violinist, And I think, the whole idea of, the classical music world is very rigid and uptight and competitive, and the costumes are horrible.
Yeah, no, I have a number of friends. The performance artist, Dorothy Bishop, who's a wonderful friend of mine, is a classically trained opera singer. She got well known for her show called The Dozen Divas. She is really out of the box.
Okay.
And I have met more than my share of people that are describing what you're talking about, and they're gifted. Dorothy's voice is amazing, as you're gifted, but that that's not going to be your route. You just know it.
Yeah. And like I felt guilty about it, and like my teacher at the time, who was like in the Detroit Symphony, you know, like I always went to these good teachers, you know, he was like, you can tell me, like you have the talent, you could totally do this. You're going to have to start practicing 3 hours a day instead of your faking it 1 hour a day. You know, which already at 16, you're just like, who's got time,
Right.
you know, to all this practicing. And he just said, like, if you're worried about, you know, your parents being mad at you or whatever, he's like, just tell me if you're going to go this direction or not.
Wow.
You know, because I will change how I, you know, instruct you. And I don't have to share it with your parents or whatever. And it was really sweet. And I gave it a couple weeks and I came back to him and I said, yeah, I'm not going to do it. You know, I want to do something else. And like going to acting school, it's funny because then right out of acting school, I was in a band. Like I met my first bandmate, Animal, at college.
Right.
And so right out of college, we basically started Bitch and Animal and, you know, kind of never looked back. So I ended up being a musician.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's like I sometimes look back and think maybe I went to acting school to like learn how to be in my body.
Oh my God, that is, I swear you could not have put it any better, because that's what I saw on the stage that night, right? From the person that was described as a kid to a person that was just so connected and at home with who they were and what they were about. And it still took a lot of guts for you to trust your teacher when you were given that option to, you know, stay or to go. It took trust in yourself too, to not be afraid, because you had been on this classical track, and, you know, to go and be something else is scary.
Yeah. And the unsure thing, you know, I think,
It is.
you know, my dad and his mom, they were always so worried about like how I was going to make a living, you know, and so a classical musician, you know, would have a certain income, you know, you audition for symphonies and it's a good life, you know. I wasn't thinking about any of that.
It's not a good life for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, let me do the most impractical thing.
Yeah, I know. But you know what's so interesting about you? Because I interview a lot of performers. A lot of people knocked around for a good 10 years before they got picked up or hit a certain stride. You took off from the beginning, and that's something that still is very interesting to me, because there's lots of talented people out there. You know it.
Yeah.
You took off from the beginning. You know, the collaboration between you and Animal.
Yes.
The fact that the universe had the two of you meet, well, that was supposed to happen. But then you were touring right away from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We had a pretty quick and easy path, it felt like, which was, so lucky. I mean, you know, a lot of things.
It's talent. It's luck. It's the right collaboration. It's the right place, the right time. You know, you're meeting Margie, whose work on your show is really brilliant. Really, really.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
I know. I owe so much to her.
Right. But it takes, I always say it takes the right team. So when you started out with Animal, what were your early days of touring like?
Oh my gosh. Well, we moved to New York. We went
immediately.
Yes, we played one show in Michigan as Bitch and Animal, and we could tell by the audience reaction we were onto something. So we both like quit our dumb jobs and like moved to New York like the next week.
If you told me the next day, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, super impulsive. Animal's from New York, but I had never even been there.
Right.
I had never even visited. So yeah, we moved there and we were just kind of, you know, working dumb jobs, and then went up to P-Town for a summer.
Wow.
And that's actually where we got our big break. Like we played a free show at this guy Jingles, who owns the pizza shop in town, gave us a free show. And so we played every Sunday night, and it quickly became like the thing to do.
Wow.
And that's where Ani DeFranco's people saw us. And
right.
So we had like started from P-Town. I started booking us a tour, because the great thing about P-Town is it's a tourist town. So we were like collecting mailing addresses at that time for our mailing list.
Right.
So we started like, you know, kind of meeting people from other places. And like we got some convention in it was somewhere in Pennsylvania to like book us. And then we booked this little tour around it. So we had this conversion van that we slept in. We called her Van of Love. And, we carried our own juicer. I mean, we were just like total hippie kids.
You know what? But you did whatever you had to do. And I'm thinking you're in your 20s.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. That's the age when you can do all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's all good and fabulous. And actually it was, you really did have a lot of early on luck. It was a P-Town thing.
Yes.
You could have been knocking around New York, and many do, for a while.
Yes.
And whose idea was it to go up to P-Town?
Probably Animal's. Animal was always like the big thinker.
Yeah.
Or like the one who would be like, oh, come on, like the risk taker.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah. Like we heard about this town where everyone was gay. And I had invited this person to live with us who had like slowly like taken over our lives.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't like gloss over that. So you're in New York when you invited this person to live with you.
We're living in Brooklyn, and this is a friend who from Michigan. I went to high school with her. She's a brilliant painter.
Right.
And she was trying to get out of her life, in Detroit or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, come live with us. You don't have to pay rent, just come stay.
You don't have to pay rent. Wow.
Oh yeah. She lived in our living room and then like slowly just started like making rules about where our cat could and couldn't go. And she was allergic to the cat. And like we had to barricade the cat every time we went to work. I don't know why we were like letting her boss us around so much.
I'm listening to this and it's like, and all that's going through my head is that she wasn't paying rent.
Yeah, I know. And like that we like even capitulated to anything. So literally like things got so crazy and we just apparently weren't equipped to communicate our own boundaries. So we literally like heard about this town in P-Town, and yeah, we had been in the New York grind for a minute.
Yeah.
I just lost my other earpiece here. And
you
hear
me okay though, probably.
Can you hear me okay?
You have a voice that booms as loud as mine, so yeah.
My witch cackle is echoing.
Microphones. What did they tell me? Could you tone it down a little? I think it's because I have a hearing loss from dancing in clubs for too many years. And I have a parrot who gets on my shoulder and screams in my ear. 40 years with her. 40 years.
No. 40 She's years still there?
Oh, Louise is on the other side of the wall. Sometimes when she hears me calling her name, she'll yell out from the living room, hello. No, she didn't right now. God. 40 years. I really deserve a medal, but I have a definite hearing loss. So,
oh my gosh.
Which is why I boom when I talk.
Yes. That's why we like each other.
I'm loving this story with the roommate.
Oh yeah. So we basically like, instead of just being like, hey, actually you're not paying rent. And so our cat is,
right.
We didn't do that. We left her our recliner. We left her everything. We took the cat. We got in a moving truck and we went to P-Town, and we signed over the lease to her, like the landlord, like she just like lived in that apartment, I think for a good another year after we left. But yeah, we just like ditched out. And so then
we're living out of a van.
Yeah. Well, we got to P-Town. We rented this little shack. That's when you could still like afford to live in P-Town. Right. And then from there, that's kind of where our career started taking off. And we bought a van from the Provincetown AIDS Support Group. Like that was our first touring vehicle. And then we were I was halfway through booking that tour that summer. And then we got the call from Ani's people.
Wow.
So, we were touring in the fall, and then our first date with her was going to be the following April. So then we got all the way down to North Carolina on this tour that I stopped booking because now Ani DeFranco wants us to open for her. So we were like,
we need this garbage.
Yeah. We were like, let's stop doing these shitty shows. Let's go make an album. So we turned left and went to Seattle because we had a friend who had a studio there, and we made our first album, and it was literally mailed to the club when we had our first night opening for Ani.
Wow. I mean, I love these stories, okay, because these are the stories that happen when you're in your 20s and you don't give a shit and you just do stuff and you're a creative person and you explode and you roll the dice and everything works out. Who is booking the tours for you? You were like the one who was the tour booker?
At that point, I was, yeah.
How did you know, like, where to? I'm asking questions that I'm sure people want. How did you know what places to book or anything?
Oh, I would just, I was always like kind of like I did all of that. I did our booking. Then once we got an agent, then I started I would do all of our press stuff, mailing out our press packets. Remember when you used to have your glossy?
Yeah.
I think at that time when I was booking, I would just I would look up gay places in every town.
Gay
where's
venues.
The gay bar? Yeah. Where's the gay venue? Coffee shop, whatever.
Right.
And I would just call them.
Yeah. And
I mean, I probably only booked, 6, 7 shows, and then we got that call. So
a really incredible story because you were doing your career then really in leaps, leap to Provincetown, leap to Annie DeFranco.
Yes.
And then you were on a roll after that. What were you 22, 23?
No, I was probably 25, 26.
All right. Or again, early 20s,
yeah.
That kind of magic. Bitch talk really does happen. I want to, we've talked so much about your music. I want to have Juan play the video that you sent in. Okay. Ooh. Cool. Thank you. All right, Juan, take it away.
Of my life, this line is so painful to write. I never did dream I'd be without you tonight. That chapter, how it ended, my heart broke and it bended. The weight so great, put back out of place, and I probably won't ever mend it. And it's okay, I'm alright. I keep telling myself to keep it light, I'm fine. It's just time. I know you were never mine, and you will always be a permanent marker on me, and I will always be searching for you. These are the pages I'm in, and now a new one begins. These are the pages I'm in. Far from our old home, or the streets we know. And I'm halfway down the road of my life. You're a story I couldn't hold, I couldn't write. And every day I'm one day older. Am I writing every day? You were fucking cold, and that's life. And okay, I'm alright. I keep telling myself to keep it light. I'm fine. Take your time. I know that you were never mine. Will always be a permanent marker on me, and I will always be searching for you. These are the pages I'm in. And now a new one begins. These are the pages I'm in. They're just empty now. And now a new one begins. These are the pages spiral down. I got one song of love and your 2 songs of leaving you. I got headlights in front of me, nothing but empty streets. I just want us both okay. We rolled the dirt road back to where it's made us. You are the leaver, I'm the believer. These are the cages. These are the pages I'm in. And now a new one begins. I'm wearing. These are the pages I'm in. This is empty now. And now a new one begins. These are the pages. These are the pages.
I love this video.
It was fun to watch it again.
It's a great video, and there's all the elements of you, and a lot of the elements I saw in Bitchcraft, and this was done at a totally different time, this video. I mean, they're all there, the
whole writing metaphor, and
there were so many metaphors in this,
Yes. That was fun to see again.
It was. Well, I know you probably haven't looked at it
No.
because what a really great video.
Thank you.
How did you find out you could sing?
Oh gosh. I mean, I grew up singing because my mom is a tap dancer and was very into musical theater, and she was a choreographer. So we always grew up singing, my sisters and I. I don't know. I never knew I could sing in a way. I mean, I was always told I didn't get much good feedback about it.
That's amazing, because that is definitely a Broadway voice, musical theater voice, and you've taken it to a whole other genre, and it's just great. You just want to listen to you.
Thank
and that
you.
Combined with the violin is it's such a win-win situation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's funny because in my early days of being a musician, I never thought of myself as a singer. I think of myself more as a writer and a poet.
Yep.
And then recently, I'd say in the last 7 years or so, I've kind of admitted to myself that my favorite instrument is singing. I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really, really great. So, you're back in New York now.
I'm in Boston, actually.
You're in Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are you thinking? What's your plan? Are you going to be in P-Town again this summer?
I'll be in P-Town this summer. I'll be doing a version of the play that you saw, but probably more the kind of rock version, which, doesn't involve as many set pieces or whatever. It's the same story, but it's a slightly, more kind of cabaret version. So I'll be doing that.
I'm a good audience. I had no idea. I thought I saw the rock version.
Oh, yeah. No, I want you to see the P-Town version, too.
Yeah. When are you going to be in P-Town again?
So I'll be doing it every Wednesday for July and August.
Yeah, there's a possibility I could do a Wednesday in August. P-Town is far. How long will you be performing in Boston for?
I live in Boston.
Right. So are you going to be doing stuff in Boston? I have a reason for asking. I have places to stay there.
Oh, fun. I have nothing booked in Boston, but I'm now I'm trying to think about the next step of the play, where to present it again, which of course there's so many wonderful theaters here.
Yes.
But yeah, I have no idea when that will be.
Well, it will totally find you the way everything else has.
Aw, thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. So, while you were just traveling on your most recent tour, right? What kinds of things did you encounter in that you noticed things have changed in the country? I'm curious because Pennsylvania definitely has a different vibe.
Really?
Yeah, where I am. And I'm only an hour and 40 from the city, but there's definitely, there's animosity. We had this huge rally last Saturday, I'm sorry. There's another one coming, and there's lots of stuff going on with the school boards, right? So yes. I'm wondering if just, you're kind of like with what you do, you could be in a bubble, you know what I'm saying? Because you go on stage, you perform for audiences that love you.
Right. And, something I've noticed, which is, of kind of the opposite experience of what you're describing, is something where there's even more fervor now of like us coming together.
Great.
So, I definitely heard I've been hearing this since the election of people being like, oh my God, I needed this now more than ever.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling. And so there's like an extra like kind of rabidness, to my supporters and my, fans or people. Gosh, what else? Yeah, as far as like the animosity
would be the same kind of community that I would be involved in, and we've gotten stronger, bigger outreach, definitely more vocal. I've always been vocal, but a lot of other people were not as vocal. I'm watching people change, and I'm really seeing an aggressiveness that I know needs to be there. I'll just put it that way.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, it can't be like kumbaya anymore, because there's a lot at stake here now, and especially, I mean, we just had Night of 1,000 Gowns, and Coco Lachine, who's very high up in the court, made this incredible speech about the trans community, and Coco was on fire when she made that speech, and everyone needs to be on fire. This is just not right what's going on right now.
Oh my gosh. It's harrowing. Yeah.
Right. And it will, if we don't start giving strong pushback, it will trickle down in a bad way. I would say that. So, in our organization, we deal with a lot of kids and kids in high school. And what we try and offer, and I say we, I'm not there. I have an incredible board, and our executive director, Taylor James, he works with our teens, and they love him because he's like a teen. He passes. And, he's there for them, and somebody that they can connect to and look up to, because it's not a cakewalk for a lot of these kids in high school.
No. Yeah.
I don't know if you were out in high school or what your situation, you probably weren't out.
No. In fact, I mean, it was unheard of,
We have a lot of kids that are out, and, which is great, right? And if it were 5 years ago, we would be saying, oh, this is so great. We've got a gender fluid bathroom and all of that. Well, now things are being rolled back. But
yes. And then it's like extra, I worry that they have an extra target on their back.
Oh, right. That is actually very well put. And that's what I worry about too. But things had changed, and these kids are out. And our young trans community is big. It's absolutely big. And I think it's up to all of us to not only be role models, but to do everything that we possibly can. You just by being who you are and the music that you make and who you appeal to, that's a political statement.
Thank you for saying that. Because, it never, especially right now, it never feels like you can do enough,
Oh, I totally agree with you. But you know what? Doing something is your enough, right? My doing something, I was at this Night of 1,000 Gowns, and the whole thing, it's our big gala, and we have entertainers and all of that. But the underlying theme all night, we had Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. The guy who's retiring, he made the speeches that were made were very spot on to now. And while that was going on, my Triversity friends and neighbors out in Milford were really out in force. There were a lot of them, and I was very proud of them. And that's what it's going to take. We all have to be able to do our part.
Yes. And it's going to take, connecting with people on a human level. I mean, even, I still believe that the divisiveness that we're experiencing in this country was it was absolutely deliberate. And I still believe that people inherently are good people.
And I agree with you. My glass will always be half full. and I will always give someone the benefit of the doubt. But that being said, I am so not kumbaya. I have a lot of friends that still are, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's over. The fat lady sang. You remember that expression. And we really have to roll up our sleeves now and think about the midterm elections and, all of us to do our part right now. It's really, really important. I'm very excited to see what you do next,
Thank you.
You have to write a book about your life so far because you're so young and all this great stuff really happened for you.
I love the idea of a book. When I first started working with Margie, I was like, maybe it's a book, and then,
right. Maybe it'll be a book at the end of the day,
Yeah.
And maybe the book is not ready just yet because there's all of these things that are going to happen like this year. But, it's very interesting to me. I got to see your show, your relationship with Animal, who was, your first key player in your new life as your truth, right? As you live in your truth. And then what happens to a person when that other half, right, is not there anymore. It's amazing how we land on both feet and do what we have to do next because we don't have a choice at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah. And what a gift to remember how resourceful we all are, you know?
Well, right. And that we can reach down into ourselves if we believe that we can and make things happen. We are down to our last minutes. I don't know where the time goes.
Unbelievable. Every time I talk to you, it's like that.
I know. It's a good thing you don't run into me at a bar because then 3 hours go by.
I know.
Way too much. And then then I start going down the rabbit hole, especially when I have a good audience. I'll forget it. So what do you think about going forward and where bitch is going and where bitchcraft is going to go?
Ooh.
You have a plan.
I'm in the middle of making that plan. So, where bitchcraft is going to go, where the broomstick will take me next, I don't quite know, but I do know that the story of it and a story of somebody who, pulled themselves out of a semi-dark place through creativity and understanding their own voice is a story that needs to be told and shared. Right. And I can't wait to do it again. It's like I went, it's like I miss telling that story right now. So I'm just like, oh, I just want another theater to come along.
No, I know. I agree. I mean, it was a story a lot of people could relate to. The kid in their room. There's a lot of people in your audience, I'm sure, were the kid in the room. I was the kid in the room. My daughter was too, and I pointed out to her that just about everybody I'm friends with, I'm like, we're not so different, Kyle. I'm actually friends with a couple of 100 people really in a given month that I'm in touch with that are just similar to me. They were the outcasts of people that didn't fit. And, they're the people now that are writing books, producing this, producing that. I was going to say
the message, I really do want to start working with young kids, younger people to give them that message of use your tools, use your voice, use what you have.
You have them,
Yes.
Don't be afraid to get that message out there, that it's a valuable message.
Yes. And just because if your peers don't understand you, it's okay. There's a peer group out there for you that's just waiting.
Oh, I love that. You know what? That you need to be working with kids. Maybe that's in the game plan down the road.
Yes.
Really. You would be such an inspiration. Well, if you are performing up in Boston and you can give me some heads up, please let me know because that's an easier train ride than the haul off to P-Town. I love P-Town, but I remember sitting for 4 hours in a car.
Oh, yeah. Especially if there's traffic.
Wednesdays wouldn't be that
easier.
Kind of traffic. Yeah. It would be easier.
If you can make it to P-Town, I will roll out the red carpet for you. We'll go to the beach. We'll have a whole thing.
Yes.
I will keep you informed if I'm in Boston, New York. I play Lancaster sometimes.
Love it. Bitch, you've been a terrific guest. Thank you. I love saying that. Bitch. Thank
you so much, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, and hang out. I always take a picture at the very end.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Let me get my piano bracelet in there.
Okay. Is it in there? Great.
Yep.
Hang on. Cool.
You got it?
I will send you everything. The piano bracelet's fabulous. Who made that for you?
Thank you. I got it on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh my God, I got furniture on Facebook Marketplace, but we only took
It was like $7. That is a bargain. I need it.
For $7? Oh my God. It's really, I never did Facebook Marketplace before. I sold a cabinet the other day and I have a duplicate one I'm trying to unload, but you're in Boston. I need someone in New York to buy it. Marketplace, yay! All right, bitch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great evening. Take care.
Keep up the good fight.
Bye.
Bye.